All right, welcome to the program, The Desk on Global Television. It's the 7th day of November 2024, and we've got some very interesting talking points we'll be looking at on today's edition of the program. It's still all about the U.S. elections, and we've got 4 reasons why Kamala Harris lost to Trump, according to the deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, talking about the person in the person of Kingsley Moghalu. He's talking this evening. Kingsley Moghalu has suggested factors likely to have made former President Donald Trump defeat Vice President Kamala Harris in the November 5th presidential elections. Moghalu stated that Americans were not ready yet for a female president. Reported that Trump on Wednesday defeated Harris to emerge the 47th President of the United States of America. The ex-deputy governor also cited perception of the economy by the Americans, explaining that inflation was high for most of the campaign season. In a post on his X handle, Moghalu explained that the election showed that despite Trump's controversial legal record and personality, Americans broadly wanted him. The former deputy governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Kingsley Moghalu, has suggested that these were the factors that led Donald Trump to beat Kamala Harris. So do you agree with him? Is one of the talking points I will be looking at on today's edition, especially when it had to do with sexism. He says Americans are not ready for a female president, and also talked about perception of the economy. And also he looked at Harris talking about Harris could not overcome the skepticism of the white working class. Many reasons of this, including both racism and sexism. That's the reason he mentioned for the loss by Kamala Harris. All right, we still have some other talking points. We've got finally Kamala Harris did concede election defeat to Trump. Yes, the vice president of the U.S., Kamala Harris, has finally called Donald Trump to concede the election. This comes hours after the race was called and her loss was confirmed. According to the Daily Mail, Harris had a warning for the president-elect, lecturing him even as she congratulated him. Harris is expected to concede to the nation at Howard University later today. The White House has already confirmed that President Joe Biden has also called both candidates. Biden has also invited Trump to meet with him, telling him about the importance of working to bring the country together. All right, that's still talking about issues concerning the U.S. election. Let's also let you know that former president is still talking about Barack Obama. President Barack Obama has said the electoral victory of Donald Trump in the election is not the outcome he had hoped for, noting the importance of a peaceful transfer of power. Obama's comments stand in stark contrast with Trump's unprecedented refusal 4 years ago to concede to defeat to Joe Biden, culminating with the violent attack by his supporters on the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. The ex-president also voiced pride over efforts of Vice President Kamala Harris and her running mate Tim Walz, who were soundly beaten in the election. Meanwhile, Obama called them 2 extraordinary public servants who ran a remarkable campaign. All right, from there, we'll also be talking about other issues on today's edition. We'll also be talking about Okukpe is in the news this evening. A former presidential spokesman, Doyin Okukpe, on Thursday, suggested how to unseat President Bola Tinubu in 2027. Okukpe said a combination of a former presidential candidate from the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, and that of Labour Party, Peter Obi, would unseat Tinubu in 2027. He said it's a game over should former President Goodluck Jonathan join the race in 2027. Posting on his X, Okukpe charged business mogul Aliko Dangote should emulate Elon Musk and back Atiku. All right, from there, we'll take you back to Equatorial Guinea. Talks are still ongoing as the government in Equatorial Guinea has commenced a probe into the hundreds of leaked pornographic videos allegedly involving the high-ranking civil servant, Star Sal Engonga having sex with various women, including wives of prominent officials in his office. The government has further ordered the installation of surveillance cameras in courts and in ministries to combat indecent and illicit art. It also announced that it was suspending officials involved in the scandal. According to a statement issued by the Equatorial Guinea Press and Information Office published on the government website. Vice President Diodoro Mangu on Tuesday said any official found engaging in sex art at work would be sanctioned as it was a flagrant violation of the Code of Conduct. So we'll be looking at what this would mean to the entirety of the Equatorian people and in Africa in other issues. All right, let's just quickly, we'll also be taking into the health sector where we've got the coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Mohamed Partey, has urged Nigerians to demand accountability from all tiers of government for the delivery of quality healthcare essential services. Partey, a professor, made this known at the ongoing 3-day Nigerian health sector-wide joint annual review in Abuja. So these are some of the talking points we'll be looking at on today's edition of the program, The Desk on Global Television. We'll go for a quick break. When we return from the break, we'll be joined by Olugbenga George, who is a journalist and also a diplomatic aide to help us look at some of these very interesting talking points. Stay with us. Is The Desk on Global Television.
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momodu on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the Palestinians, we are the Canaan because
that this country gets it right.
Who are these bandits?
It's The Desk on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on The Desk. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on The Desk.
Is The Desk on Global Television.
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momodu on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the Palestinians, we are the Canaan because
that this country gets it right.
Who are these bandits?
It's The Desk on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the decks. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the deck.
Is the desk on Global Television?
Nigeria! Come join Anthony Mamadou on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the Palestinians.
we not
We
say
are the
that of them?
Canaanites because
That this country gets it right.
who are these bandits?
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the decks. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the deck.
Is the desk on Global Television?
Nigeria! Come join Anthony Mamadou on television's most compelling and
Back from the break, it's been us trying to get everything set in place so that we can hit the discuss button. We've got to Luke Benga, George, who will be joining us via Zoom. He's calling from Ondo State, where the November 16 election is gathering momentum. We'll be getting his take as regards to what's playing out there, and also as regards the U.S. election. Good evening, Olugbenga George. Nice to have you join us on the desk.
Good evening, Tony. It's great to be here. Good evening, Nigerians and viewers across the world.
All right, Olugbenga, let's just quickly, before we delve into the U.S. election, which is on the global scene, just give us a brief highlight as regards what's playing out in Ondo State as we get towards the November 16th governorship elections in Ondo State.
All right, thank you, Tony. It's interesting. The momentum is obviously gathering for the November 16th governorship election here in Ondo State. As you already know, all the political gladiators have their gears on, and the candidates also are here trying to win the last minute followership of votes, in preparation for next Saturday. Of course, when you travel around the capital city, Akure, the most prominent banners, billboards, when you get to every bus stop that you will see are the pictures and banners of the incumbent Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa, who is on ground, who is also running under the flagship of the All Progressives Congress in the November 16 election. So he's running, and we also have other people, but I'll just be objective enough to say that we've had more of the sitting governors' posters around. It got me worried at some point until I started seeing bits and pieces of maybe the leading opposition party, People's Democratic Party, Agbola Ajayi, in few locations across the state. But what we have, especially in the state capital, Akure, pictures of the incumbent governor covering practically everywhere. And it brings to question whether the other contenders are really in the race to win, or whether they are just there for fun, just to, maybe answer the call of their party not having a candidate. That's been the major conversation, especially since I got here, to know whether, because it seems as though maybe the other parties are not really ready. And of course, you also remember that last week Sunday, there was a political debate that was organized by by TV station. I'm sure everyone saw it. And of course, only two candidates were also there, which confirms, my suspicion that I will continue to stir up my worry about whether people are really in this race, or it is just two people or two persons. Sometimes it looks like a one-horse race. Sometimes it looks like a two-horse race. But beyond those two, I think I've seen a bit and pieces also of the efforts of other political parties, like the Labour Party, the Social Democratic Party is also on ground. But when you are talking about feeling the pulse of campaigning for a governorship election in this case, what you have more is the ruling party, the incumbent party, Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa, and bits and pieces of the opposition party, the People's Democratic Party.
All right, there was, before we leave Ondo State, there were some issues about changing of the electoral commissioner. Can you give us more highlight as regards what's really playing out as regards the umpire and what INEC is doing to ensure a free, fair and credible elections? Because Professor Yakubu Mahmood had promised that what allegedly played out in Edo State would not be allowed to happen in Ondo State. What's the implication of that comment?
Well, the thing with Nigeria and Nigeria's politics generally is that as long as you are in the opposition, everything is wrong, from the system. Everything is wrong if you are in the opposition. But if you are in power, everything is right. That's the thing. So what we have is just like we had in Edo, where the PDP called for the removal of state electoral commissioner, who happened, then to be Minister Nyesom Wike's cousin, and all of that. They called for his removal. But the Ondo case story is different. They just feel not confidence with the current representative of INEC, and they want him removed. But the chairman, the national chairman of the electoral body, has, like you said, reassured every stakeholder. And just today, there was a stakeholder engagement meeting where we had the INEC chairman reassure all the candidates of the different political parties that is going to be free and fair. Yes, he mentioned yesterday that they are going to correct the mistakes of whatever happened in Edo State, and they would ensure that it doesn't happen here. And that is a common language as far as I'm concerned, within Nigeria's political system. Every time there is a new administration, the Independent National Electoral Commission is always challenged to be on its toes, to deliver a free and fair election. But it continues to be a tall dream. But what's most important is that our democracy is developing, is growing by the day, and all of these bodies will only continue to improve as our democracy improves. Although I believe that it must be intentional, and to solve the problem permanently, INEC needs to be unbundled, like a lot of persons have called for. One of the persons who also believe that INEC needs to be unbundled so that those who take care of logistics and those who take care of other things are separate, one. And secondly, that the selection of INEC's leadership should not be solely made to rely upon the decision of president. The chairman of INEC should not be appointed by president, because as long as the chairman of INEC, is an appointee of a president, this.
All right, Olugbenga, are you there? I think we're having some audio glitch there. We had, okay. Olugbenga, can you hear me? All right, that's Olugbenga George, who is a journalist and also a diplomatic aide. Give us some highlights and update as regards the Ondo Global polls coming up November 16th, just to letting us in as regards what the polls is in Ondo State. We'll go for a quick break. Hopefully when we return from the break, we'll re-establish contact with him so that we can get his take as a diplomatic aide, what the U.S. elections stands for and other issues making the rounds. Stay with us. Is the desk on Global Television.
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momodu on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the Palestinians. We are the Canaan, because
That this country gets it right.
who are these bandits?
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex.
Is the desk on Global Television.
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momodu on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the
Can
Palestinians.
we not
We
say
are the
that of them?
Canaan because
That this country gets it right.
who are these bandits?
It's the Dex on global television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on global television. Let's stay on the Dex.
Is the desk on global television?
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momadou on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the
Can we
Palestinians.
not
We
say
are the
that of them?
Canaan because
That this country gets it right.
who are these bandits?
It's the Dex on global television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
All right, welcome back from the break. It's still the desk, and we still have Luke Benga George, who is a diplomatic aide and also a journalist, joining us from Ondo State. George, let's look at us away from what's playing out in Ondo State. Let's look at what's happening on the global scene. The U.S. election just gone by, and we've got the 47th president of the U.S., the same man who was the 45th president, Donald Trump. How do you see that victory by Donald Trump against all odds?
Well, I think it is a victory for democracy, and it is a testament to the fact that democracy has become a global phenomenon that cannot be stopped. It has become a system that has come to be acceptable by the global world. What we had, ordinarily, when we look at it, following the build-up to those elections, we would have thought that it would be a walk in the park for Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party to actually win this election. A lot of things were against the former president, before the election. We had a series of court cases. We had quite a number of things against him. He had become the unpopular candidate. And it's only thing as a shocker, to see that he emerged, especially when the counting of the election results started. And of course, we know that one winning the victory at the swing state, where the electoral, college, where those states, the election results began to pour in, and it became unbelievable. But like I said from the beginning, what's most important and what this reflects is that democracy is a government indeed of the people, for the people, and by the people. And it is to do practice of America. When we look at the situation, for example, in the United States, you realize that it doesn't matter what individuals think, what some persons think, what those in power think. It is not that the power of incumbency is not a factor, in a developed democracy. So that's a testament, number one, to the fact that the American democracy is developed, to the point where the power of incumbency is almost irrelevant. Because one would have thought that the machinery of states that Kamala Harris would be able to have emerged running as the vice president. One would have thought that everything would have played out to her advantage in the election. But what we rather have is the fact that somebody who seemed to lost political value, emerged against all odds as the winner of that election. I think that's indeed something that we could begin to look forward to emulate across the world. Yes, it tends to back out. President Trump is obviously a very controversial individual, and his emergence, has spelled quite a number of things for the global world. Looking at the war in Ukraine, looking at the Gaza war with Israel and Gaza, and all of that, the entire structure, of those gamut of issues are going to take another dimension entirely. And of course, you also saw the part where immediately the election results of Trump started surging. We also saw the fact that the stock market began to improve significantly in that regard. You saw that prices of stocks, started to go up in the United States. So which, is a testament to President Trump, perhaps business savviness, and the fact that investors have more confidence in his administration as a leader. Let's not forget, that democracy is a popularity contest, and whoever emerges, has been able to prove himself in the minds of the people who actually voted for him or her. So what we have, or what it tells us, is that sometimes what the media portrays, sometimes what opposition portrays is not the reality, but rather that it's important for the player to actually continue to do what he is known for, stick to your gun. And I think that is what Trump has done. He has stuck to his gun throughout the process, and he continued to, appeal to his audience, and he did not lose favor of steam with them, and hence he has this victory that is being celebrated across the world right now.
All right, before we let go that talking point, do you agree with former Deputy Governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, Kingsley Moghalu, who suggested that the factors that made Harris lose against Trump had to do with sexism as one of the issues that made her lose? The issue of sexism, that Americans were not ready for a female president, then the perception of the economy, the fact that inflation that's coming down, but was high for most of the campaign season, and also that Harris could not overcome the skepticism of the white working class. And the fourth one being that Trump's victory was sweeping and encompassing virtually all the battleground states. Do you agree with Kingsley Moghalu, former Deputy Governor of the CBN?
Well, yes, of course, I respect Professor Kingsley Moghalu a lot, and yes, I believe that he has a very broad perspective, to global issues. Yes, so I would say yes. The issue of sexism played out a little, but that reminds us, and that's a reflection of the fact, that even though we want equality in the world, I think we really do want equality in the world. We should actually do what it takes. Like we were saying yesterday, like candidate of a political bloc, and that he represented the interest of that bloc. And what that bloc represented to the American people is what made them, to refuse from getting into power. And that's what the erudite professor is also referring to, which is the issue of the economy. So we cannot continue to promise, having spent 4 years in power, without actually providing government, without the people feeling the impact, the significant impact of governance. Inflation is obviously on the rise. They look at themselves, they look at when Trump was in power.
All right, let's. The last question I'm going to ask you concerning the U.S. election has to do with former U.S. President, talking about Barack Obama, has said that the electoral victory of Donald Trump in the election is not the outcome he had hoped for, noting that the importance of peaceful transfer of power. Obama's comments stand in a stark contrast with Trump's unprecedented refusal 4 years ago to concede defeat to Joe Biden. How do you think this has hit the Democrats, especially Barack Obama, who is still saying the victory is not what was expected, and knowing that Trump didn't accept his own defeat?
The truth is that politics is a game across the world, and it is either in every game there's a winner and there's a loser, and if you're a loser, you find excuse for why you didn't win, and if you're a winner, then you would assume that your ideas or opinions are superior enough, and that's why the people actually embrace them. So, talking about the issues not conceding, he had no choice anyway. I'm sure if President Obama had the choice, if he had the influence, he would have actually asked Kamala Harris not to concede. But if they do that, they would, which is of course not possible, by the way. But if they did that, it would still now revert back to the insurrection that happened, in 2021, for which they are charging Donald Trump. So I want to believe that they are trying as much as possible not to fall into the same trap, into the same crime for which President Donald Trump was accused of. So of course, fully defeat was almost natural for them. And talking about that, I think it has also come to speak to how the American people perceive the issue. So first of all, if the American people see President Trump as a criminal, he means that in the eyes of the people, President Trump is not a criminal, rather the institutions have labeled him so, and they want to.
All right, let's go to the next talking point.
What has happened, with the emergence and the big deal.
All right, let's move to the next talking point. We've got Okukpe claims that Atiku Obi can remove Tinubu. That's the next talking point, where former presidential spokesman Doyin Okukpe on Thursday suggested how to unseat President Bola Tinubu in 2027. Okukpe said the combination of the former presidential candidates from the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, and that of Labour Party, Peter Obi, would unseat Tinubu in 2027. He said it's a game changer should former President Goodluck Jonathan join the race in 2027. Do you agree with Doyin Okukpe as regards his formula for unseating Mr. President come 2027?
Well, first of all, that's a very brilliant idea, but for me, it looks like a dream that may never come true. Because the question is if Atiku and Obi could run on a joint ticket, I believe they would have done that. They had their best shot in 2023. As we speak, they have become divided, and I doubt if their followers will ever merge, will ever come together again. So, or even the players themselves will ever agree. Because the question would be, who will now be the president, and who will be the running mate? Former President Atiku Abubakar, Vice President, Atiku Abubakar, definitely will not be the Vice President again. He's not vying for that position. And the many supporters who supported Obi in 2023 will also not support him as the Vice President. I believe that strongly. I believe that they want Obi to be president for all the sentiments, for all the right sentiments, for which they want him to be. And making him Vice President denies that in its entirety, totally. So I do not see that happening. But if it does, if they are ever able to come together begin to ask questions. You know, we don't have an example of the American system right now. And remember, I said that really it's about institutions, the independence of the institutions. We cannot guarantee that yet in Nigeria. And we also look at under what party we go on. As we speak, the PDP has only 13 states out of 36. The Labour Party has one state, Abia State, and maybe Kano, where you have the MNPP also has one state. So the remaining states, about 16, like the FCC, practically, belong to the All Progressives Congress. And I want to also believe that the APC will not go to sleep just because President Tinubu has won the election at this moment. And even if they come together, I really do that. But I believe that the power and the voice of the people does that. If the system is adjusted and allowed to be free and fair, maybe, just maybe, we can begin to think of the possibility of this Obi actually could then system. But I really do doubt it. I'm not going to lie to you, I doubt.
All right, let's move on quickly. Time at our friend, we've got barely 10 minutes or less to wrap it up. Let's quickly look at what has been playing out in Africa as regards Equatorial Guinea. Now the government has decided to probe hundreds of the leaked pornographic videos allegedly involving high-ranking civil servants, and also has decided to place CCTV cameras across the ministries and agencies. Do you think that is the solution to what played out in Equatorial Guinea?
This is a very interesting issue that we continue to talk about. I'm still looking at the crime. I wish that this man had been penalized for that, been charged, and be found guilty of the crime. Then we would have maybe we would have been able to talk about this. But as it stands, I think what the government can do is to look for every measure to stop that. Discipline is a personal matter. You know, it's an issue, it's a personal issue, and we do not know how many of that is going on within the government. And for me, really, it's an issue of personal morality. You know, and if the government wants to sanitize the morality of the people, then it begins to need reconscientization. Something is fundamentally wrong. You know, where we have the dominance of such issues in a society. I look at the Nigerian society, a lot of things are wrong, and they continue to be fundamentally wrong. And the thinking pattern and the attitude of the people are the way they are, because they are unchecked. But you cannot use an isolated case, except we know that there is now a far-reaching effect, where a multiplying effect of what has happened now, in other parts in the country, where you now start having men or all of that. Until then, but the way to guide against it, I think it's a step in the right direction to have counter CCTV cameras. At least now there will be a watchdog, and then there is a consciousness after this that once there is a measure, once you know that you are being monitored, you know that you are being noticed with what you are doing, then there are chances that you will behave better. So it's a step in the right direction, but again, they need to stick to building character. They need to actually define what the values that guide the society are, and they need to now look for a way to ensure that it goes deep down, into the society, not just issue. The issue is, I believe, is beyond just.
All right. All right, Olugbenga.
The figures are outrageous. The scenarios are funny, especially looking at the women and the classes of people who are involved in the case. And that speaks again, like I said, to the issue of morality. What is moral in that? What is moral in that society? Is it?
All right, Olugbenga Georgia, I want to say thank you very much.
That it was subjected to, the legal system to checkmate, and the law was not found guilty. tell that, well,
all right, Olubenga, I would like to.
Cultures and values, and our cultures and values compare attitudes that are checked on set. So, the Equatorial Guinea as a country, is starting to do, and I think might be a way to set this, and maybe they will be able to sanitize the country essentially.
All right, Olubenga George, I want to say thank you very much for joining us on the desk and for giving us update as regards the Ondo elections coming up November 16. Thank you very much, and we urge you to enjoy the rest of your day as we move on. Thank you very much. All right, that's how much time is going to take us to discuss some of those talking points. I want to say thank you to Olubenga George, who joined us all the way from Ondo State, giving us highlight as regards what to expect come November 16th, where all the gladiators will be going to the polls to elect the next governor of the state. My name is Anthony Momodu, saying thank you for joining me on the program, The Desk, on today's edition. Hopefully tomorrow is going to be another exciting edition with all the big stories making the rounds across the globe and definitely in Africa and Nigeria.